How are your relationships today? Personal, professional. Could they be better? Welcome to Talk Time with Trish, with host Trish Forante and co-host Lisa Stewart. There are so many variables that affect our lives. What makes the difference in our lives is genuine communication. Now, here are your hosts, Trish Forante and Lisa Stewart.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending upon where you are across the country and the world. This is Trish Forante, and welcome to Talk Time with Trish. Our show is about improving communication for both men and women. Today, we're going to talk about happy children, happy home. Life seems to be stressful for everyone. Children, in particular, need a simple, caring, and natural environment to be happy. How can we teach our children to be intrinsically respectful towards others while they honor their own needs as well? Happy Children, Happy Home is a workshop and the title of a book created by today's guest, Carla Van Walsum. Carla provides tools to parents for being their brightest self and creating harmony at home. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you so much, Trish, for having me here.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. Actually, we are honored to have you work with us and speak with us on live radio across the world. So tell us about your work.
Oh, that's a big question.
It is, but we'll zero in on what
sure,
you do.
Sure. If we start with the Happy Children, Happy Home, that was a wish of me my entire life to teach tools or to have tools for treating children that they are feeling not so much judged, accepted for who they are. I think it's the greatest gift you can give to a person, to feel accepted for who you are. And that actually became the foundation of the workshops. And it's about awareness of parents to discover what they maybe know already but didn't have access to because they had all kinds of ideas or often fears. And you get a baby and you love it incredibly much. And then the fear sets in, how do I reach the situation that my child will be successful? Every parent wants to be their child to be successful. And what is the side effect from that thought is that we, in general, maybe criticize our children too much, tell them too much what to do, have them following rules without teaching them to be independent thinkers. There's a lot of fear in the situation of education towards children.
Well, let me ask you about that. When you talk about following rules or not following rules, and the reason why I'm sort of honing in on that is because I am Catholic, and if you know anything about the Catholic religion, you know we live with rules, which, you know, as someone with a mental health background, I don't necessarily agree with. So, you know, there's my own push-pull there. But you said something that I'd like to focus on, because in my opinion, children need stability, predictability, which equals rules when they're younger, growing up into their teenage years and through their teenage years. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the yin and the yang of children need rules and theoretically thrive with rules, but yet they also, and I do agree with this piece, need to be and thrive to be and want to be independent?
Ooh, what a question. I certainly embrace the idea of rules because it gives safety and it gives boundaries, which are very necessary. But if it is you have to follow the rules or you get punished, then you get a different way of how to deal with it. And the punishment and the reward are both a concept of the same sides of the same coin, a different side of the same coin. If you punish for you don't like something, then you create often anger and frustration and pain in the child. And
can I ask you, does that, because I'm getting this visual here, that is that sort of in keeping with the thinking, you don't hit anyone, you hit a child at school, therefore I'm going to hit you?
Yeah, that is the craziness we do. We teach to get it our way by using force, and if the child uses force, we get upset. So educating children, in my opinion, is very much becoming aware of your childhood, your baggage, what your parents did. And there's a kind of nice sentence like 150 years ago, it was still common to hit your slaves. 100 years ago, it was common to hit your wives. And 50 years ago, it was common to hit your children. And it's all based on, I want to get it my way. So a child learns that the one who has the biggest power would get it his or her way.
And then a child, let's say an acting out child, a belligerent child, some would even say, and I sort of teeter in this camp, an overindulgent child would sort of subscribe to what you just said, which is, you have mom, dad, you have the most power, so you're going to get your way. But I am going to do whatever it is that I need to do or can do or is within my capability of doing to take that power from you. Ergo, misbehavior, acting out, violent behavior, antisocial behavior, so on and so on. Is that?
I hear direct the fear behind this question, and I heard in the beginning you saying that overindulged child. That means that is out of balance. Overindulging is not a normal way of educating. So if you give a child always whatever you want to, whatever, that's not education. That is just letting things be the way they are because that's easy or whatever it is.
Correct.
That's totally not what I mean. I mean, you see here, for instance, and that always shocks me, that a parent wants to be the child successful in school. And, okay, you come home as a C, I'm grounding you for a week. That has nothing to do with each other. The question should be there, the respectful question, like, what happens? What made this happen? And maybe your child isn't as smart as you would like it to be, whatever it is. Or maybe there was a reason he didn't sleep well. It's not a reason for punishment, to give one example.
So what if the child says, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know why I got to say.
Well, we have to talk about that. We can, if it's so important to you, you need to talk about that. And that's actually a way of raising your kids independently. As one example,
but what if it's important to mom and or dad, but it's not important to the child?
Then there is a history behind that, because if you put in the fear, if you don't do this, you get that. That's the 6th word: do this and get that, or you'll get that. If you punish children for not doing their homework well or for not having a good grade, you take away also the joy of learning. I think it's a great gift to people that we can learn, and learning is ongoing. I still love to learn, and I'm sure you too, Trish.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could not agree more.
If you punish for a wrong grade or whatever, then you create negativity, and then you start to like school so much. If there's a lot of pressure and stress, you don't like school so much. So a C could be a result of that. There are so many ways to look at why is it as it is.
Okay.
And
so it's more of on a quasi-intellectual level, and I say quasi because, to me, when I get on my children's level, I am the most successful, as opposed to presuming or assuming that they are at my level or demanding that they come up to my level as an adult. When I go to their level, perhaps a tad higher to raise the expectation, but not to bring them someplace that they're not socially, emotionally, intellectually ready for.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, what I hear here is the respect for any age, any whatever it is, the respect for your child. And if there's something you don't like as a parent, it's also time for reflection. What is that? What does that say about me? Do I project my ego or my desires on my kid that it needs to be successful in a way that I want them to? And maybe my child has other ideas. It is about, if you want your child to be respectful to you, you first need to be respectful to your child. And that means observing rather than judging or comparing or telling them what to do all the time.
That is fabulous. And again, I'm going to hone in on that because I'm thinking of my own children and how disappointed I was when I tried to groom my older one to be a lawyer, and started very, very young, and realized that because she told me, did not want to be a lawyer. And we're talking about third and fifth grade here. We're not talking about older than that. But I remember the disappointment that I had. I did. But I had to, I reined it in and said, not your life. This was my self-talk. Not your life. It is your child's life. But interestingly enough, the caveat to me was, well, she's still a baby. She's still young. Maybe she'll change her mind.
That is so honest that you say that, and that's so totally representing the conflict many parents have, because you have your wishes with your kids, and that's okay. But the moment you impose them on them and you put the pressure, I don't think that's the happiest thing, because
it's so hard. It's so hard not to. It really is so
doable
hard.
Because I do it. I have 3 kids, and I encourage them. I don't push. They were barely ever asking help for homework. We came from another country a few years ago. They barely knew English. They went through all that. From that point of view of, I want it because it's for myself and it's part of what you do. But bear in mind, I was not punishing them if they came home with a lower grade. They barely did, but I don't have that attitude. And I went to teachers because it was very shocking to me that I got no homework passes because they were behaving well. And I was thinking, behaving well is normal. Why do you need to reward them with a no homework pass? And you tell me also that homework is kind of punishment. That's a negative thing. No, homework is to learn more and to be more knowledgeable.
I love that. And I'll tell you why.
The teacher didn't, because she was totally disagreeing with me, because it was a bribing thing and it was a power thing to get her needs met for the grades and the whatever. So teachers are in pressure, of course, too. It's the system that makes it in a certain way that you bribe children, give them candies first grade. There was a big candy box. If they had good grades, you got sugar-filled candies that makes them hyperactive, not much recess or barely recess at all. Hyperactive kids, okay, let's go for Ritalin. Now, I go very fast, but boom.
Well, I do have to stop you there because we do have to take a break, but I want to pick up right where we left off because I have my own thoughts on that, which are in keeping with what you're saying, but I think it's fabulous that you're bringing this up. It is time to take a short break. This is Trish Forante, and my guest today is Carla Van Wallstrom. You're listening to Talk Time with Trish on the Voice America Health and Wellness channels. Please stay tuned.
Be sure to friend us on Facebook. You can do it right now. Visit Facebook.com/Voice America or search for us at keyword Voice America.
Are you ready to learn how to heal yourself, your relationships, and how to handle life's difficult situations? Whether you are an individual, couple, or family, our guest today, Carla Van Wallstrom, has the experience and educational background in clinical psychology and holistic therapy to assist. Carla will help you uncover your life's purpose and support you on your spiritual path. Carla will boost your communication skills in order to help improve your personal and family relationships and heal old wounds. Because we all know, happy children mean a happy home. Carla is available for private sessions, workshops, seminars, and online classes. You can reach Carla at 561-860-4883 or go to her website, www.carlavanwalsum.com. That's 561-860-4883 or www.carlavanwalsum.com. Talk Time with Trish is proud to sponsor the 3rd annual Jackson Laskowski Keep Hope Alive charity golf tournament, hosted by Tim and Michelle Laskowski. This amazing event will take place on Saturday, January 13th at the Westchester Country Club in Boynton Beach, Florida. The event will include a golf tournament, awards dinner, raffle, and live and silent auctions. Jackson is a 6-year-old boy battling stage 4 liver cancer, and we are looking for sponsors and golfers for our fundraiser to benefit our nephew Jackson. You and your family or company can be a part of this very special event by golfing or donating sponsorships or items to help pay for what is not covered by insurance. You can call the chairperson, Michelle Laskowski, at 512-252-2933 or go to the website at employeeassistanceprogram.com to see the link for more information. That's 561-252-2933 or go to employeeassistanceprogram.com. Thank you for your support and love for Jackson and his family. Please come to Westchester Country Club on Saturday, July 13th. Keep hope alive for our children battling cancer. Talk Time with Trish is proudly sponsored by Rachel Lou Gluten-Free Foods. Based in Long Island, Rachel Lou's gluten-free foods are sold in some of the biggest retail grocery stores in the New York area and will be coming soon to Whole Food stores in Florida. You can also purchase Rachel Lou's gluten-free cookies and muffins by going online to www.glutenfreemall.com and search for Rachel Lou Gluten-Free Foods, and they can be delivered right to your front door, anywhere in the country. Created by nutritionists using only high-end quality ingredients, Rachel Lou's gluten-free foods are 100% natural, meaning not only are they nutritious, they're totally delicious. To order, call 516-679-3033 or visit our website, RachelLouGlutenFreeFoods.com. That's 516-679-3033 or RachelLouGlutenFreeFoods.com.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Talk Time with Trish. If you have a question or comment regarding today's program, please call in to 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. If you prefer, you can send an email to info@talktimewithtrish.com. Now, back to the show.
Hi, this is Trish Forante, and welcome back to Talk Time with Trish. My guest today is Carla Van Wallstrom, and we're talking about Happy Children, Happy Home. And Carla, before the break, you had said something that I fully and completely agree with and has driven me crazy as it pertains to the school system. Across the United States, actually. I was beginning to say here in the South, but it's not a Southern-only problem. It really is national. And I agree with you in terms of, for example, the example that you gave, rewarding children who do well with no homework. To me, that sounds rather odd. But let's sort of talk about that some. Let's delve into that in terms of what is a better way, or a way that is more philosophically aligned with your thinking and what you espouse and what you teach when you work with parents to help them have happy children and a happy home.
Well, punishment, if we start with that, is usually given with the hope that the child would learn something, and you could do that in different ways. It creates often anger, and punishment is often kind of revenge. You don't do what I want you to do, boom, whatever. It's kind of a war zone, actually. And the same thing is with rewarding. You do what I want you to do, and then I love you and I like you. That's like very conditional. And
I never thought about that. I always presumed that rewards are a good thing. But listening to you say that, yes, that's the paradigm. You're absolutely correct.
If I get parents, they ask me, my child doesn't want to do the table and only do if I pay some money. Then I said, well, you must have given in the past all kind of rewards to get yours done. And that brings, and I love your question, Trish, it brings me back to the fact, what can you do instead? It is about celebration, being joyful about things that are going well. So if you have a good grade, for instance, you can be happy you had that good grade. You knew your stuff. That in itself is a reward. You don't need to get a present for that. The same way, the other way around. If there is a C, a parent need to check in, is that my ego here? What is bothering me? Because I am afraid, because it's always fear right away. You punish your child because you hope it will work harder in order to get better results. But why to do that with punishment? And it won't work at the end, because in America there's so many children that leave schools in high school. There's so many children that get issues with that. You don't need to do that. You can be happy that things are going well. And if it's not going well, we can talk about what's going on over here. It's a signal that a child if a child doesn't want to learn, every young child wants to learn. They're imitators. They are learning by imitating and observing. What happens to that desire to learn as a young child when they get older and they don't like it anymore? There's a general attitude, I don't like my homework. Most of the time, young kids can have it still a little bit more. We spoke about this week about a little example about how we can learn. Remember, I came from Holland, and my son was 6 years old, and he entered first grade without barely knowing English. He went in the ESOL program, and me as a mom, I wanted to accompany him, was in his class, in his room for one morning in the week, helping the teacher out. And it was sixth graders, September, October, just new in the class, getting a spelling test on Friday. I think whole America gets a spelling test on Friday. It looks like that. I didn't know that because in Holland they just do less testing in school, so that's already different. Anyway, so I was there, and she gave me the teacher gave me papers I had to go through, and for putting them in a folder, for bringing them home. And there were 6 papers. There was no name written on. And I said to her, there's no name here. And she looked at me and she took them and she teared them in pieces. And I was like, ah! Because speaking about respect, is that respectful? If you are, as a 6-year-old, doing so your best to do really the spelling work so well, and they tear your paper because you forgot to write your name, I think that's horrible to me. That's so violent. But she said that's the way they learn it. And I have many of those examples. So that's not teaching with love. That makes school stressful because you're so afraid to do something wrong. And what you do wrong.
Let me stop you there because I agree with you. I agree with you. But what's going through my mind as a parent is, what about competition versus cooperation? And I say, well, let me say. Part of what's happening in America today is the generation that has been brought up on no competition, only cooperation. This is in my opinion, the overindulged, I'll use that word again, generation where these kids think that they should get anything and everything simply because they are. They don't have to work for anything because they're going to get the prize at the end of the day regardless. And, I'm wondering where you sit with that. And let me say, while I agree with you, ripping up a 6-year-old's spelling test because they did not put their name on the top of the paper, his or her name, is egregious from where I sit. I as a parent, I would have just been mortified with that.
If I may interrupt you, a nice parent would, but there are also parents that when they come home with an F because they didn't do the test, so to say, they will punish the child also. Not every parent would. Yeah, no. So there are a lot of ways to go. If I go to your question, competition and cooperation, I don't think that is related to being indulged. I think competition is separating people. If you have competition in a marriage, well, that won't be such a nice marriage anymore. If you have competition between you and your friends, same thing. So I think competition, I don't like it so much. And we need it in sport probably, but in the school, I don't think we need it we don't need it in the classroom. If you can learn so easily and you do things well, that's your gift. That's great that you have that ability, but that doesn't mean that you have to look down on others or to feel competitive. That doesn't bring the best thing out in us. Cooperation is serving, is being together, is helping each other. And I think that's the approach I like much more. But I don't see the connection with being indulged or feeling entitled to get everything with that.
What happens with the overindulgement, and the reason why I use that word again, is because there are children today are entitled. They feel a sense of entitlement that certainly when I was raised, I was not brought up with, nor any of the people that I affiliate with professionally and personally. You had to work for what you did or did not get, did or did not want. Mm-hmm. Whereas this group of children today, and I'm going into the adolescent years as well, children and adolescents, they seem to think that they get whatever they want, or they don't get whatever they want because of the theory of cooperation versus competition. And when I say competition in the school system, I don't necessarily mean I must do better than you. I mean, I must do well in order to earn a grade. Children today, grades don't matter. They just don't seem to matter because of the sense of, we have to cooperate. There's, everybody gets a trophy. Johnny, Mary, Jane, and Joe all get a trophy, regardless of the fact that, Johnny and Mary really, really worked significantly harder for that trophy than the other two.
Okay. I think that is an educational part. Education in what, coming back to the overindulging, because I don't see the relationship too much, because the overindulging is a way of looking at education like it's not education. And I think that if parents are not spending much time with their children and they maybe get away with, okay, instead of this you get that, whatever it is, my children are not overindulged, and my children are not rewarded and punished, and I don't have these kind of things. And we went through a lot of turmoil since we came in the U.S., and they are doing well. So I have only 3 kids. I don't have 20 kids, but it doesn't mean that you need that part. But you mentioned about grace, and I think there's something. Did we teach our children gratitude for what is around us, for nature, for all we have in our lives? If you don't install that, or the intrinsic respect instead of the superficial respect, you have to respect me, otherwise I get angry. And which I would rather have sometimes a child that is disrespectful to me because it shows his feelings, and I want a true connection. I understand that in anger you can lose it a little bit. A parent can do the same thing. So why children have to be so perfect and never losing it? It's about a true connection towards me. And I feel like the overindulgence, it's maybe replacing attention and time together, and it says something about the parents too. Maybe they were so working hard in their lives to make it financially well and to be respected, which is also outside superficial. They do the same with their kids. They are not connected to intrinsic values enough, like I said, gratitude and what is really important in life, true connection.
You thumbnailed exactly what I think, but wasn't thinking when we began this conversation. You are absolutely and completely correct from where I sit. It's it is. You are. It is a preventative model, which I completely subscribe to, versus an in the moment, let's fix it after the fact model. And we do have to take another break, but we will pick up from there because I love what you just said. This is Trish Forante, and my guest today is Carla Van Walsum. You're listening to Talk Time with Trish on the Voice America Health and Wellness channel. Please stay tuned.
The future of online TV is here. View exclusive content from your favorite talk radio hosts and new programs that you can't see anywhere else. Visit voiceamerica.tv today.
Talk Time with Trish is proud to sponsor the Worldwide Sports Recap, hosted by Mr. Steve. It's been another great week in sports with some amazing playoff games. The NBA and NHL will be crowning their champions very soon. Let's start with the NBA playoffs. The Spurs continued their dominance over the Memphis Grizzlies and swept them right out of the playoffs 4-0, and now get a very welcomed rest for their aging legs while they wait to see who they will go up against in the NBA Finals. In the East, the Heat and the Pacers split their games in Indy to keep the series tied at 2. But the Heat took control and manhandled the Pacers on their home court last night, 90-79. They are headed back to Indy for Game 6, Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. The NHL playoffs continue to bring fans some outstanding action. In the Western Conference, the Chicago Blackhawks were down 3-2 to the Detroit Red Wings, but with gritty determination, they took Game 6 on the road and won Game 7 at home in dramatic fashion, 2-1 in overtime. The Blackhawks will now play the defending champs Los Angeles Kings, who won an epic battle of California over the San Jose Sharks. The Kings won Game 7 at home 2-1, proving that home ice does pay off, because the home team won every game in this series. In the Eastern Conference, the Pittsburgh Penguins finished off the Ottawa Senators 4-1 with a crushing 6-2 victory in Game 5. The Penguins will now play the Boston Bruins in the Eastern Conference Finals after the Bruins went home and took care of the New York Rangers 3-1 in Game 5. The Major League Baseball season is headed into the hot summer, and for the first time ever, the New York Mets swept a 4-game series from the New York Yankees in interleague play. The Boston Red Sox lead the American League East, the Detroit Tigers hold a half-game lead over the Cleveland Indians in the Central, and the Texas Rangers are up 3 games on the Oakland A's in the West. In the National League, the Atlanta Braves are 5.5 games up in the East, the St. Louis Cardinals lead the Central, and the Arizona Diamondbacks lead the San Francisco Giants by a game and a half in the West. Parlez-vous français? Whether you speak French or not, it doesn't matter. But if you love tennis, you know the French Open is in full swing. Defending champion Rafael Nadal came from behind for the second match in a row Friday at the French Open, surviving another shaky start to beat Martin Klizan in 4 sets. Number 1 seed Novak Djokovic easily advanced to the third round, while he will play Grigor Dimitrov, who just so happens to be dating defending champion Maria Sharapova. Sharapova easily advanced to the third round, but she better stay focused because American Serena Williams is performing at a high level, and if they both make the final, should be an awesome match. All right, sports fan, it's shaping up to be a great weekend, so clear your DVRs so you can get all the action taken in. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for your weekly recap of your favorite sports. Have a great weekend. This is your host, Mr. Steve.
Opinions, options, answers. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Talk Time with Trish. If you have a question or comment regarding today's program, please call in to 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. If you prefer, you can send an email to info@talktimewithtrish.com. Now, back to the show.
Hi, this is Trish Forante, and welcome back to Talk Time with Trish. My guest today is Carla Van Walsum, and we're talking about Happy Children, Happy Home. Carla, before the break, we were sort of kind of sparring, but not really. I think we are on the same page with this, but I'm not quite sure. So let's recap where we were before the break. We were talking about competition versus cooperation in the classroom, in the schoolyard, et cetera, et cetera.
So the competition, I think that does not bring, what I said before in the relationship, that doesn't bring the best relationships out. If you look at somebody and you compare, because it's competition is a lot of comparing. Yes. It has nothing to do with doing your best for your own result. That is the best way of looking at it. I loved it. I want to be good at it. I don't have to look at my neighbors, what they are doing. It's their thing. And that is different, that you do your thing as good as you can do. That is, by the way, I was a musician in my first career, a classical flutist. And if I had difficult concerts to play, and there's always something difficult. And if you feel the competition or you start to think about how am I doing it, you make a mistake. If you're totally embarked in what you're doing and the joy of doing it, same for sport, you don't compare, and the comparison is involved in the competition. It's about the quality. You can reach a high quality without competition. It's a different way of thinking.
Well, it's you competing with yourself is what I tell my own children, is you don't compete with your neighbor, you compete with yourself. It's how can I do well or be the best I can be for me,
yes.
For me, with me, and about me, not in an effort to beat my neighbor.
No, but competition is related to comparing. And why would you compare with yourself? It's like, I do the best I can. That's a great feeling. This is what I can. This is what I can do less. I try to do it better. But also, it can create a lot of stress. So if you focus more on the joy of doing it, the joy of learning things, that is a different feeling. And then you are less dependent on the outcome. We live very much dependent on the outcome, dependent on the approval, if it's okay what we do. So we lost kind of touch with ourselves, what we said in the beginning, like the creativity, your own, that you become dependent what other wants from you.
Well, two things. One is, before the break, you touched on something which is so near and dear to my heart, is if you teach anyone, but a child in particular, because we're talking about happy children, happy home, respect, and you use the word gratitude. I am more inclined to use the word appreciation, but they mean the same thing, essentially. If you teach children that in the beginning, respect for self, respect for others, and gratitude vis-a-vis appreciation, everything seems to, from where you sit, and I tend to agree with you, falls into place much more easily because you're not coming up against the tide. You're not bucking the system. This is who the child learns to be, who they are. This becomes part of their profile and who they are as human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The gratitude for what is. If you look around, you have if you teach a child to be grateful for the nature that is provided freely, you develop in that child responsibility for nature. It will destroy it less easily. Gratitude is really a great energy to be connected to, because if you feel grateful for whatever happens in your life, and that could be a terrible thing as well, you can turn that around and be grateful for a terrible thing that happened into your life because you turned it around and you learned and grew from it tremendously. Like a divorce, it's not always a tragedy. It could be something you can turn around for the better. And I think that is a great way of living. So you're totally apart or driven away from overindulging because it's not even there.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally not connected. Overindulging is like you're even not grateful for the children you have. You just give them to do your other things, And I'm totally not saying don't give them or whatever. No, it's not there. It's about intrinsic quality, that you are together with them, that you do a little thing, that you share time together. That's different than
one of the things, number two, I had indicated that there were two things I wanted to ask you about. And yes, I fully agree with everything you're saying. And in hindsight, truly as a mother, now I'm speaking to you as a mother, I wish that I had done more of that with my children and do that now, but I wish I had started earlier. But you said something about the joy of learning. Mm-hmm. And my question is, and I'm sure lots of our listeners who have children are probably thinking the same thing, the joy of learning, where does that come from? I would say the vast majority of 5th, 6th grade and up don't really have a joy of learning. Even those who do well in school, it's more of, banging it out, hammering it out in an effort to, get into the best college or even get an offering to be admitted to the best colleges across the country or across the world, in your country in particular, in Holland. There are lots of really, really good universities. So you understand what I'm saying. And I just don't see it. I mean, even myself as a highly accomplished student, it was work. I love to learn, and I've always loved to learn, but I can't remember it being joyous.
Do you hear yourself talking? When you talk about it, I feel the stress physically. So when you create stress in a child's life or an adolescent or whatever, stress is not pleasurable. You speak about the stress going to the right college, going through school. It's a lot of work. It's very stress involved. And stress is based on fear because you have certain thoughts about it. And that takes
let's stop there.
away.
Let's stop there.
The joy of learning.
That's a tip. Mm-hmm. Stress is based on fear. Let's not have stress, or let's keep stress on a balanced level so that we have zero fear.
Change the way you think about certain things, and the things you look at, they change. We put the fear in our children. There was lately a girl that committed suicide because she supposedly was cheating on the FCAT test or whatever test it was. I don't care.
It was the SATs, yes.
Whatever. If my kids would do that, I wouldn't jump up and down from joy, of course, but they will not take it as a reason to commit suicide. So I'm not sure about the situation. I'm not judging there at all. Please get me right. But I feel in a way that a child could possibly commit suicide in that case because of the tremendous disappointment for the parents. And maybe there's a lot of stress, but I don't know at all. It could be totally different. But the highest suicide rate is in Japan, where there's so much pressure on children on learning. So there is so much stress on learning. How can it ever be joyful? How can it be joyful anymore? So if you don't put so much pressure about GPA, about this, about that, that takes the joy away. You are a person who's you are very learned, so you have had also joy in learning. I think you take a book, you love to learn certain things because it's free of pressure. And you learn something as a hobby, it's free of pressure.
Yes.
So the school is over-pressured, and that takes the joy away. Yeah.
So can I sort of infer from that you're suggesting that in the classroom, kids are to think about learning as a hobby?
Well, I think if you go there, then it would ask for changing the whole system. I think there are schools with different models. For me, it's important there's a child feel happy in school. And that means that it is an philosophy. And there is so much what requires that. But that goes very far. I'm not, that there's a lot to say about it. But I think if you are in a nice environment and you feel happy as a child in school, you will do automatically things better. I have been in a school without grading in Holland. And
so let's go back to that for a second, because that to me speaks to the prevention model, which I am a student of in every single facet of my life. If a child is taught at home to prevent fear, to prevent stress, yet we have to all work within the system, then many of these issues will take care of themselves. Is that what I hear you saying? Can I pull that from what you're saying?
The attitude of the parent is, of course, important. If you know, I get a C, I will not be able to see my friends for a month, that is terrible. That's horrible. So then you don't want to learn and you don't want to go to school because you don't want that situation. So that's really the result, and that's terrible, I think. And
what about an F? If your child is getting an F, failing a certain subject, what would you do with that?
What do you mean by enough?
An F. I'm sorry.
I understood an F.
I'm sorry. That's my accent. I'm sorry.
It is always the question, what happened? How come? And if the answer is an answer that asks for more questions, then you go on there. And that brings me to the situation like, let's fix the child. No, children reflect a lot in themselves what is happening at home with themselves, how they are raised. So about fixing the child, fixing the problem of having an F, it's always a bigger picture. And it's very easy to put the blame on the child. It's not about blaming. It's not about shaming. It's not about guilt. It's about understanding the how and what. And eventually the why, but why is very abstract. So rather don't have that question. That's another tip. If you want the truth, whichever that might be, never ask why because it's very abstract. Say what made you happen doing this or how come you did that.
I like that. Ask what, not why. Second tip. Why
did you do that? I don't know. That's the standard answer.
It is.
It's a huge think process to get there. You don't understand yourself. Your parents don't understand you, so how can you do?
I agree with that, and we are going to pick up from there when we come back. It is time to take a short break. This is Trish Forante, and my guest today is Carla Van Walsum. You're listening to Talk Time with Trish on the Voice America Health and Wellness channel. Please stay tuned.
Stay connected.
Sign up for our newsletter.
Go beyond your favorite Voice America shows. Visit iradioblog.com.
Talk Time with Trish is sponsored by the 8-time award-winning Managed Care Concepts, where excellence is our only option. Services include managed mental health care, employee assistance, and drug-free workplace programs. With an emphasis on confidentiality, stability, and experience, we get results. Our individualized attention allows us to have a 100% customer retention rate. Our dedication, customer service expertise, high engagement, and utilization rate allow us to go that one step beyond the rest. Managed Care Concepts is at your service. Talk Time with Trish is also sponsored by Miss Fran's Early Learning Center, which is located at 401 Northwest 2nd Avenue in Boca Raton, Florida, right across from the brand new downtown Boca Raton Public Library. Miss Fran has been an educator for over 25 years in Boca Raton. Her program is an educational preschool and VPK program for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. Her program will offer your child a nurturing environment, the role in reading program, and assertive discipline, all leading to a superior child care experience. For more information, call Fran Robert at 561-338-7649 or find us on the web at www.missfranselc.com. Are you ready to learn how to heal yourself, your relationships, and how to handle life's difficult situations? Whether you are an individual, couple, or family, our guest today, Carla Van Walsum, has the experience and educational background in clinical psychology and holistic therapy to assist. Carla will help you uncover your life's purpose and support you on your spiritual path. Carla will boost your communication skills in order to help improve your personal and family relationships and heal old wounds. Because we all know, happy children mean a happy home. Carla is available for private sessions, workshops, seminars, and online classes. You can reach Carla at 561-860-4883 or go to her website, www.carlavanwalsum.com. That's 561-860-4883 or www.carlavanwalsum.com.
Opinions, options, answers. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Talk Time with Trish. If you have a question or comment regarding today's program, please call in to 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. If you prefer, you can send an email to info@talktimewithtrish.com. Now, back to the show.
Hi, this is Trish Forante, and welcome back to Talk Time with Trish. My guest today is Carla Van Walsum, and we're talking about happy children, happy home. Before the break, we started to get into something a little bit, I don't want to say controversial, because I completely agree with you, although much of the American school system is not arranged or organized to function the way perhaps you and I think we'd like to see things work. So let's pick up where we left off, and let's talk about...
Yeah, I would like to say a little bit like if the school system would imply or incorporate the vision on gratitude for what is, for life, these kind of little visions that will help children a lot in their education. For me, the school is very important because the most of the day you are in school, and that would be a nice environment, and I love the ethical education as well. What I would like to add, what we spoke about before, and that's in addition to what I do is the crystal clear communication based nonviolent communication, because to talk to children in a certain way creates certain relationships and certain behavior. And that's really great if you work with that model. And if that's used in schools, you get a much more less competitive and very cooperative situation with great results. The other thing I would like to emphasize is we are born into a family, and like we have the genes of a family, the physical genes, we have also the epigenetics. That means the energy field of our family, meaning the traumas or things that happened into our family over several generations, plays a role, could play a part in a child with difficult behavior, what we don't understand. So there is a lot to look behind the curtain. And what I would like to say, clinical psychology science, as you well know, shows that traumas are stored in the limbic brain, part of the brain, for at least 3 to 7 generations. Well, you can conclude that, and the science can conclude that, but what can you do about it? The work I do that brings upon those dynamics and where the trauma is coming from, and that you are related indeed to the suffering of ancestors who are in war or incest or abuse or whatever. If that is negative energy. A trauma is energy, and negative energy seems to work through if you don't heal it. So children can have difficult behavior related to family traumas the parents aren't aware of at all. And I can mention also the behavior of depression or suicidal behavior or whatever, you name it. So the bigger picture in a family is so important. That's why I call myself family harmony strategist, because there is so much to look at what you can do and heal in order to get results in the future and in the now.
And that's a very, very interesting position. And as you were talking and I was listening to you, I was thinking about a book that I have read, and the name of the book is Ask God. And what it talks about, you're smiling because I think you're probably familiar with the book. And what it talks about is a very short blurb. It's only one paragraph, but it's a poignant paragraph based on what you just said, which is what we live today is very much in the way that it reflects our ancestors and our generations that have come before us. And the author believes all the way back to Adam and Eve. So,
whoa, that's a huge burden.
Yeah.
I like so much the way you say this because it brings me back to the overindulging. You need to realize too that America is a country of immigrants, and a lot of people came here to get a better life, and they came from a very poor background, and they were totally focused for 100% on being successful, and they didn't have much time for values, I'm not attacking them, of course, but they didn't have much time for emotions. How do you feel about it? No, you have to do what you got to do because you want to be successful. And if you reach that point of being very successful, which many did after 1 or 2 generations, then you're a bit thrifted away from your spiritual background, from whatever. It's like, we are successful. We finally met our goals. And then what? Okay, we can buy everything for our kids. And now we discover the emptiness behind it. That's also out of balance. I look at everything in the balance. This is out of balance. The poor and the rich. It is like, it's great to have a lot of money. Enjoy it. You can do a lot of good things with it. But it doesn't mean you have to buy everything, because that's not necessary either. How much can you have? I mean, it doesn't matter. The value is in the quality of life, and that's intrinsic.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that if you speak to a lot of people, there is a little bit of a paradigm shift, more than I've seen before, where adults in particular who are open-minded enough to move in this direction are starting to recognize that spirituality is incredibly important in our lives to live a quality life. That's what I think is behind moving away from, or you see the the herds moving away from organized religion and more into the spiritual mode of thinking, as opposed to, lighting a candle at the altar kind of thing. And I can say that because I'm Catholic, so we do a lot of that. So,
That's beautiful too.
For me, I do get something out of that nonetheless. But what are your thoughts on what I just said?
I think that is great. And I think the self-help books have helped tremendously. And a lot of people are awakening, and we are in a different we are going through a shift now. I'm sure about that. And also more in a cooperative way of living than comparative and competitive and serving, instead of only the fear, I have to make this money. I have. There's so much fear. And there's, of course, a logical fear that you don't put your toddler in a parking lot without watching it. That's normal that you don't do that, because it's just a no-brainer to do like that. But all the fear behind what if, and I cannot, and I'm so, if you deal with all that and you're not afraid, even if you don't make so much money, it can come in a different way. It's being aware of your fears, and that's what we do with our kids, and we have this fear for that.
We are wrapping up, unfortunately, because what you have to say, I think, is so interesting. Tips and tricks, what do you have for us?
There we go. We did not speak about the communication model, the 5 steps, but one of the steps is what I'm very attached to is be aware of your judgment in your language and speak clear truth, what you see, clear observations, not all the comparison and the judgment and all the things to get it your way, because that will improve your relationship tremendously. Non-judgmental. And remember that whatever you focus on talking about it, busy within your mind, it expands, whether it's positive or negative. So please choose to have positive thoughts that will create better energy in your field, in your world, also for your children, because if you feel good and you're happy, the children are feeling much better too. There is a saying, a child needs only happy parents. And that is like the happiness of being happy with yourself, with who you are. And that's the greatest gift you can give your child, that joy of being happy with who you are.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it was just a delight, Carla, having you on the show.
Likewise,
today.
I love it.
It really, it was a delight. You just have so much to say. And we are closing down today. But before we close, I invite you to tune into next week's show, What Happens If? With our guest, Betsy Otter Thompson, founder of the Answers in the Mirror. I'd like to thank our guest again, Carla Van Walsum. If you'd like to contact Carla directly, please call her at 561-860-4883. That's 561-860-4883. And until next week, I ask you as Trish Forante, please be genuine, please be sincere, and please be authentic.